Welcome back to the I Am More Than podcast. I'm your host, Jordan Wessel. I'm a former Miss Arizona USA professional model and founder of More Than Inc. I'm excited about this week's guest because a lot of you may know her from last season of The Bachelor, but what you may not know is who she truly is outside of reality TV. She's a confident, positive Canadian that loves spreading good vibes, dancing, and lots of wine. If you're a member of Team No Spill, you already know exactly who I'm talking about. In this episode, we talk all about her experience on TV, dealing with internet trolls, overcoming self-doubt, mental health, body image, and gaining confidence. She's letting our listeners into her world far beyond social media and is unapologetically herself. I'm excited to introduce you to my friend, Mykenna Dorn. Welcome to the I Am More Than podcast, Mykenna. I'm so stoked to have you here.
I'm so excited to be here.
So you and I became Instagram fangirls in 2017 and we've been hyping each other ever since. I know, right? 2017, I went and looked back at our DMs and I was like, wow, it's been a minute.
Wow, I can't believe that.
I know, right? And it's been really cool just watching kind of how your life is transformed, not only over the last 3 years, but just in the last year in particular. You've been through a hell of a lot, girlfriend.
Yeah, it's totally living in a different world, that's for sure.
Oh, I'm sure. And I feel like so many people got to know you when you went on The Bachelor. But the cool thing about you is I feel like you were the same ray of light, the same positivity space on the internet prior to The Bachelor that you are now. So I think it's really cool that you've kind of remained yourself through the whole process.
Yeah, no, exactly. It's definitely a different, I went in the show, you have 9 million eyes watching you, and 9 million opinions on you. And it's definitely been a different world. It's been not the easiest, but it's definitely made me stronger. It's made me a better person. And I have a lot more respect for people that put themselves out there on a reality show or whatever it might be, because it's not easy.
Yeah. And I think it's cool that you've talked about not only the good, but also the not so good that comes with it. And were you prepared mentally or emotionally for the eyes that you were about to have on you once it aired?
When I got the call that I was casted, I remember calling my mom. We were freaking out. We just couldn't believe it. And my mom would always say, it's so hard to get on a show like that, Mykenna. The chance of you, getting on and going through this experience and maybe finding love, I don't know if it'll happen, but you should go for it. And, I went for it and everything kind of fell into place and I got the okay to go. And we had a long talk and she was like, your life is going to change for good and bad. There's a lot of people that are going to know you and you don't know how this experience is going to go. How are people going to take you? Are they going to think of you this way or that way? And, walking into it, I was like, you know what, I'll be okay. I can get through this. I know who I am. I'm going to be okay. But going through the experience, I really lost who I am with filming. And then coming home, it was just really hard to adjust after. And then when the show aired, it was just I was really surprised how people the hate I got. I kind of had an idea what was going to be shown, but I didn't think people were going to take it in the way that they did. And it was really hard to navigate through all that.
I'm sure. And I'm sure it's a weird experience going through it yourself. I mean, you experienced it for however many months before it actually aired and then having to relive it with people's criticism. I'm sure that was difficult to process.
Yeah, it really was. And, it was pretty dark at sometimes, I tried my hardest not to go online and see what people were reading, but going viral or whatever, when the episode's airing, and just reading them and just seeing my name everywhere and, talking about my tongue and then I'm, high on cocaine and just things like that, or I'm too emotional and I need to stop crying. And it was hard to take that criticism and thinking, wow, does everyone really hate me? It's I don't want that to be what represents me, what you're seeing on the show is just a fraction of who I am, not even close. And I will own up to any mistakes that I made. And I'm definitely human. I make mistakes and I am an emotional person, but I'm not ashamed of that. And I feel watching it over, the hate that I got made me feel like I should be. And yeah, it was just like, I remember just calling the girls I was closest with, Kelsey, because she was, very emotional on the show too. And we just talked about it like every night. And it was just hard for people to think that you're just this like mess, and it's like, I just was laying it all out there. I was talking through how I felt. I was expressing how I felt. Um, and it was really hurtful to think that people thought I was crazy or just not well. And I wasn't trying to be this perfect human, I was just being me. And for that to be taken in a different way and people thinking that I'm just, this different person, it was really hard. It really was.
I'm sure. And it's interesting because the way that I watched it and knowing you just from our little Instagram relationship,
Mhm.
like I was proud of the way that you carried yourself because you weren't trying to act perfect and you were being yourself. So it's shocking that you have these random trolls that decided to pick apart every little thing instead of just giving you the credit that you're human. Like,
Yeah.
I don't think you could put anybody on national television and they would be able to act 100% true to who they are.
Yeah.
It's a high pressure situation. And you had mentioned that you feel like you kind of lost yourself throughout. Will you talk a little bit about that? Like, how did you go into it and when do you think things started getting twisted?
Yeah. I just feel like I walked into the show, I was like, I know who I am. I feel so confident. Like, I'm ready for this opportunity. I'm ready for this experience. And I'm potentially going to walk out of this like madly in love, like found my person. It obviously didn't go that way. And I think the hardest part was I just like couldn't really express in words how to explain myself with him, how to describe who I am in my life. And it became really frustrating to me. And I think a lot of it maybe came down to me comparing myself to the other girls there.
Wow.
I was the youngest. I didn't have this crazy career and like very accomplished like some of the girls, and I felt like it was almost intimidating to me because I felt like I had nothing to bring to the table. I was not going to be someone that he thought was like wanted to spend his life with, and just getting a lot of judgment from the girls too. That was hard, and I think that just made me just feel like down and not confident. And I would describe myself as a very confident person, but during this
Yeah.
experience, I was not. I like just did not know who I was anymore.
That's really hard. And I'm sure it kind of shocked you and was frustrating for you too to feel like you were kind of losing that confidence in the middle of it.
Yeah, it really was. And I think the last episode I was on, and um, I think I just took any criticism that I got from the girls or just the criticism I put on myself of feeling I wasn't good enough. And the last bit, my exit speech, my like goodbye thing, I think I remember just sitting there being like, oh, I'm going home now. Like, this sucks. Like, this went by so fast. And I feel like I really didn't go for what I wanted. Like, I wanted love. I wanted to have this amazing experience. And I didn't get that. But, I'm proud of myself for pushing through. And like, that's why when I said, like, I'm powerful and I'm strong and I feel like I deserve everything now, is because, like, for those last 4 weeks, I did not feel that for myself. And the fact
Wow.
that I could stand up to someone who was putting me down, even stand up to him and tell him that, like, because he was putting this judgment on me, being like, well, she said that you're here for this. And for me, even to say that to him, like, no, like, that's not why I'm here. And that bugs me that now you think that of me. So standing up in both ways, I think really empowered me. And so when I walked away, I was like, I don't want to hate this experience completely. I want to be proud of myself for doing this and pushing myself outside my comfort zone. And if I need to pump myself up and say, Mykenna, you did this, you're amazing, and you're going to find someone after this, because I think now, since you lost yourself, you found yourself. But, like, I walked away. I remember getting my phone back and calling my family and saying, like, this was the hardest thing in my life, but I think you're going to be really proud of me when I walk away.
It's amazing.
Yeah, like, it was really tough, but I was proud of me, and watching it all over and watching that moment. And, I did get a lot of positive comments from it, being like, and even today, I still get messages from girls saying, like, I walked away from a relationship because you told me that I deserve more. Or I feel like I'm more confident in myself because, you've taught me to be more confident. And I try to focus more on that than the people that message me saying, that was the most cringiest thing I've ever seen in my life. Or Mykenna needs to stop talking to herself, like pumping herself up. And I think that was the hardest part because like I was proud of that moment. And then,
As you should be.
but then to like go on Twitter and just see people like there's so many videos like all over TikTok of people like holding their computer and then like practicing my words and talking over top of me and like almost making fun of me in a way. And I was like, oh, really?
Yeah, that's what you took from that?
Or I think it was like Jimmy Kimmel did something on it and it was just like, oh, are you serious? Like, really?
That's
And
hard.
or just like people were like, she's really auditioning to be the Bachelorette. And I was like, I was not. Like, I'm not even ready for somebody to do something like that. I was just being myself there. I was just telling myself that, Mykenna, like this was hard, but you got through it and now you're going to be a better person because of this. And yeah, it's going to be tough in the next couple of months, but you're going to push through.
Yeah.
And I think now, since like kind of almost escaping the whole Bachelor world, like with COVID and stuff and being able to just be by myself and be with my family and friends, I feel like the last couple months have been really good for me mentally and physically. But I would say from like January to May, it was really tough.
Wow. And how long were you in the filming process?
About a month.
Okay.
Yeah.
And it's kind of a month that you have to then keep reliving for
Mm-hmm.
months afterwards, which I'm sure is very difficult.
Get like flashbacks or moments like here and there being like, oh, did that really happen?
Like, really? Like, did I just do that?
Yeah.
And it was cool because seeing how you exited, how you handled yourself, and you really came across as somebody that knows her worth and you were standing up for it. And the fact that people were talking about how young you are was interesting because I don't think a lot of women understand their worth and can use their voice in the same way, especially not in their 20s. So I think you should give yourself a lot of credit because you were self-aware. I know it was a hard process, but you really knew how to stick up for yourself.
No, for sure. Yeah. And I think that was the toughest thing with filming is that I was the youngest girl there. And I feel like a lot of girls I think people didn't think I belonged to be there. Like even people online too, they hated that I was 22 on the show because they're like, she's not ready for marriage. And I've always said that like, I feel like your age doesn't determine that you're ready for marriage, how much money you make, your career, whatever it is. I feel like when you find that person and you want to spend the rest of your life with and they're your everything, then you're ready. And you'll do whatever it takes to be with them.
Absolutely.
And I think people put that judgment on me being like, she's 23. She's nowhere near in a career that she wants. She doesn't have the life experience. She's definitely not ready for marriage. It's like, there's been times people that have gotten married at 19 or, 50. It could be any age. It just depends on when you find that person. And I absolutely hated that I got so much judgment. Like I knew that I was going to get that when I walked into the house and started filming and from the public too. I just didn't think it was going to be as bad as it was.
I feel like when you put that many women together in a high pressure situation, it sometimes brings out the worst in people.
100%.
Were you surprised by the colors it brought out in some of the women that you were surrounded by?
I'm not really going to talk about the women. I would say maybe even for me personally. Yeah. I've never lived with 20 girls before. I've never had that experience. And so I never had sisters. Like I've never had any of that. So it was really tough for me to kind of like step into that whole world for a month. And I think the hardest part is like, you're going after the same guy, it's easy now. We're all great friends. We don't have to talk every single day, but we're all civil and we're all great friends. And, but I think when you live in that environment and you're going after one guy,
I can't even imagine.
Jealousy happen, like you got to do whatever it takes to get his attention for him to pick you at the end. And so obviously the claws are going to come out. Did I think, there was a lot more drama than I was kind of hoping? Yeah. But that's girls. Like it's unfortunate because I wish that we didn't have that label on us as girls, that we're all catty, that we're all this, we're all that, because the group of girls, we're not catty. But when you put yourself in a situation like that, it can get pretty crazy, even when you look at the Bachelorette season with guys, like guys get mad at each other too. It's just very competitive. In my way, I just felt like I wasn't good enough sometimes to be around like these girls. But that came down to me, like emotionally and physically. Like I just felt like I wasn't worth it. But looking back now, I was. I did deserve to be
Absolutely.
there. And I wish if I could go back, if I could almost like tell myself, like Mykenna last year in September, you know what, you are good enough. Like stop comparing yourself to these girls. You all bring something amazing to the table. Yeah. So
And that's a valuable lesson to carry
mhm,
on to literally every other
yeah,
situation in your life.
100%. Yeah.
And you were saying that you kind of struggled, well, not kind of, you really struggled with mental health from January to May. Are there specific things you had to do, or how did you manage not kind of listening to what some of the trolls were saying on social media? How did you disconnect from that and kind of get yourself back?
Yeah. I think the biggest thing was just like not being on social media a lot. I think I had to really just, not be on my phone and kind of almost escape the whole Bachelor world for a bit. And that's kind of when COVID kind of came in handy, quarantine, because I wasn't able to do anything like jump back into another show or anything like that. So I was able to really focus on me and be around my family and friends, people that know me from me, have known me my whole life, and not just Mykenna that they saw for 6 episodes on a TV show. So I think that really helped me and just kind of kept me grounded again, just being people that genuinely like know who I am and have always respected me for being me. But like little self-care things, I would say, I like, getting outdoors and being around nature and dancing and baths. People like
Very
that.
important.
But I think it mostly came just like disconnecting myself basically from the world for a bit.
Definitely. And did you ever struggle with any anxiety or mental health issues prior to this chapter of your life?
Yeah, I definitely have always had anxiety. And I think I was a little bit worried about that going into all this. But, I feel like there's a lot of stigma around mental health and anxiety or depression, any of that. And I think for a while, like I just kind of felt bad for myself for feeling the way that I felt sometimes. But I mean, this situation didn't make it any more easier. But disconnecting myself and not putting on this like a lot of pressure on myself to always feel like I'm okay. I think it's okay to have days that you don't feel good, and you
Absolutely.
can just listen to yourself and your body and your mind and what it's saying, and just take a moment, refuel, and just don't let, I think with anxiety, yeah, like don't let those feelings make you feel like you're not okay, because you are okay. It's okay not to be okay.
Definitely. And
Yeah.
one of the main reasons I really wanted to start More Than to begin with is I wanted to normalize the fact that we can talk about mental health. Like there's such a negative stigma around it. And I feel like the more it's talked about, the more people can connect with one another and realize we're not alone. Everybody deals with it to some degree.
100%.
And it's very freeing to realize that it's not something that makes you, there's nothing wrong with you
Yeah.
because you're struggling.
Yeah.
And I think it's really important that people can kind of hear your take on it too, because you're such a champion for positivity. I feel like you go to your page, you get to know you, and it's like this ray of light, like I said in the beginning. And you've lifted so many other women up that they feel like they have their own voice now, they have this confidence. And I think it's cool that even when you were struggling, you were still a champion for other people.
Yeah. I mean, end of the day, if I can help someone get through something dark, I feel like that's amazing. And that's all that I want to do, because I know what it's like to be in those dark days. And I feel like the biggest thing that we can do, especially like with life today, is just lift people up, lift each other up, and support one another. Yeah, it doesn't have to be a competition all the time.
Totally. And I think that's so important for so many people to realize, especially because I feel like right now in quarantine, comparison culture is at an all time high.
Mm-hmm.
And how do you, after going through that experience of comparing yourself when you were in the house and through that process, how are you able to manage that comparison culture right now while we're all in quarantine?
I feel like it's tough because I feel like you can't judge your life off someone else's, because I feel like we all have our own timelines. We're all going to do things on like the way our lives will pan out. And I think for me, it's been really tough because I'm in Canada. A lot of my friends from the show are in the US, and I want to go see them, and I see them traveling to each other, and like they have that support with one another. And I'm unable to do that right now. And I just think with like comparing, I think it's really tough too with social media and Instagram nowadays too, because you look at someone's body, or their skin or their clothes or their job, and you want it, or you compared it to your life and say like, why don't I have that? And I think it just kind of goes down to, there's a lot of things that we have that other people look at us and say, wow, I wish I had that she has. But then we do it to someone else too. We forget that we have our own strengths. We have our own things that make us so amazing. But instead of looking at that and looking at ourselves and what we're great at, we're too busy looking at other people. And I think the biggest thing for even confidence, the questions I always get is like, how do you get confident? I feel like you need to stop looking at other people in their lives and comparing it to yours and thinking that your life isn't as good as theirs. You need to look at yourself and think, you know what? I'm amazing. I'm beautiful. I am so smart. I have a great family. I'm healthy. I might not be where I want to be for my goals, but what I have right now is amazing. And I need to be living in the moment. I need to look around and think like, this is great. There's always going to be, there could be someone that's going to be better than you. And that's okay. But don't let who they are take away from who you are.
That's such good advice that I think every single woman at every age needs to hear. Because confidence is not something, I think you can go and look at somebody and think that they are the most confident person in the world. Yeah. But I don't think that just because you're a confident person means you have confidence all the time. Do you agree with that?
Yeah. I mean, like I personally, I try to be this ray of sunshine for people and lift them up. But I have days where, I look myself in the mirror and I wake up and I think, I hate my body. I hate how I look, and that's, we're human. That's going to happen. But we need to stop focusing on that. Look at what you bring to the table. Yeah, because you're powerful, you're beautiful, you're all that. Yeah. So just don't focus on your flaws, but even your flaws might not even be flaws. We just think they are.
We are our own toughest critics. And like you said, there's days that you wake up and it's tough to view yourself the way you want to view yourself. And you had mentioned body image struggles right there. And that's another pillar of More Than, because I think it's important for women to realize it doesn't matter what shape or size you are. Yeah. Everybody struggles with body image and confidence.
100%. Yeah. Like I think I lost like 15 pounds when the show was airing, just from all the stress, and just, I wasn't even trying like not to eat. I just was so stressed all the time that I just didn't think about it. And, I've gained most of that back now, but it almost was a little tough for me because like, even though I was not healthy and I didn't look good, because like for my body type, losing 15 pounds is a lot. I almost like look at photos from then. I'm like, oh, I wish I was that skinny still. And like, I am still skinny, but it's just like, there's some days where, and I think it's okay to have body image, like, and not like loving your body sometimes, but, like I'm proud of my body and like gaining that weight back, because that was a really low time in my life. And even just talking to my friends and my family, they're like, yeah, you just like, we were really like scared for you, Mykenna, because you weren't well, physically and mentally. And a lot of them are happy, now that I'm back to feeling like me and looking like me again.
Yeah. It sounds like you have a really good support system there.
Yeah. I think that's really important. When you put yourself out there and, a show or whatever that might be in life, I think having people that are going to be there for you, no matter what, is very important.
Definitely. Do you feel like there was more good that came from putting yourself out there than bad?
I feel like if you were to ask me that in February, I probably would say I hated this experience. I hate that I did this. I regret it so much. But looking back at it now, end of July, I don't regret it. I feel like you shouldn't have regrets, that things that like shape your life. And I feel like this experience made me a better person, made me a stronger person. I have so much more respect for people. And I feel like if I didn't go through this, I wouldn't be the person that I am right now. And
definitely.
Even though it was challenging, it's probably been the toughest year of my life. But I think, when I have kids one day, I just want to I want to show them the videos and be like, this was me. And like, I found myself and this made me who I am today. And I want you to know that like, you are good enough. Yeah. If I have a daughter, like I want her to watch my last exit speech and be like, these affirmations, I want you to say them to you every single day, because that's what you deserve.
Like you said, if you would have asked this in February, you would have said you hated it. Do you think it was so difficult because of everybody else's criticism or because of the criticism you placed on yourself?
I would say a little bit of both. Like I did not like watching myself on TV. I didn't like how I looked. Didn't like how I sounded, didn't like what I was doing. And then when you place other people's opinions on top of that, I was like, wow, I really hate myself. why did I do that? And I think now looking at, I push back all those negative comments, even with myself. Like I've had to work on myself these last couple months and throw away all that negative criticism that I put on myself, because my opinions put me in a darker place than online opinions did, because you are your toughest critic. And yeah, it was hard, but I'm grateful for pushing through and now finding myself through it all.
What do you think was the best part that came out of this experience for you?
I would say probably the friendships that I've gained. Like Kelsey is my girl. Like,
You guys were so cute. You have the best support system. I love it.
Yeah, she was my girl. And it's so funny because, Kelsey and I were friends from night one. I was supporting her. I was like trying to help her find her champagne bottle. And we kind of went through a little hiccup at one point. And, but near the end, like she was my rock. And you can maybe have a little criticism for each other and kind of be like, not be a fan of someone. But I think you almost need to take time to get to know someone and understand why they act in the way they do, and how they express how they feel. And I think Kelsey and I were both people that I think when people first meet us, they kind of have an opinion, but they need to like actually get to know us to really know who we are and understand why we are the way we are. And that's what I needed with her. And near the end, she was my everything. And I talked to her every morning to this day since the show. And I think without her, I don't think I would have actually been able to push through, because she's always been there for my nightly calls where I'm crying over something, and always there to support me and help me get through it, and vice versa. I'm thankful for the show for giving me people like Kelsey into my life.
That's awesome. We all need friends like that.
100%.
I don't know that you can get through a lot of these tough chapters if you don't have a friend like that in your corner. Now, what do you see next for you? What do you think that you want to be doing? Would you ever go on another TV show? Do you want to focus more on life out of the public eye? What are you thinking?
I don't know yet. I think I wouldn't be able to go on another TV show until I was like 100% ready for it. Like if I was ready to dive back into that world, because it's a lot. It really is. And I really got to prepare myself if I do that. But, I do think the show works, and I would absolutely love to find love. And if I'm, ready for it and the opportunity comes, maybe I'll do it again. But I have to be 100% with myself first. But yeah, I don't really know what else is with me. I just think, I really want to focus on positivity still and confidence. And I don't know exactly what that might hold, doing something with that. I don't know, a podcast, or I don't know yet. It's something, I think that's just kind of where my heart's at. But I'm just letting life do its thing. I'm not trying to put pressure on it or high expectations, and just letting things go the way that they should go. And I think that's what I've learned, especially from the show, is like I had such high expectations going on. And that kind of just, I think maybe might be the reason I lost myself. So I'm just kind of letting things go with the flow, and just continue to work on my happiness and putting myself first.
That's huge. That's exactly what you should be doing. And I've learned, especially this year with everything that's been going on with quarantine, like it's very difficult to make structured plans for ourselves. We just kind of got to see what happens in life. And you had mentioned too that you have a lot of women that reach out to you saying how much you empowered them. Mm-hmm. And we hear from a lot of women too that will ask, how do I become confident? How do I take care of myself? And it's tough because there's not a certain answer. There's not a trick that what works for me can't work for you or work for somebody else who's listening. But if someone's listening right now that is really struggling with their confidence, what is some advice you'd give them?
I feel like it almost kind of goes down to what I said a little bit earlier, is you can't let someone else's strengths take away from yours, especially with the day and age that we live now. I feel like we're constantly looking at someone and wanting to be them. And I think that we just forget how great we are. So I would say if anyone is struggling right now and needs a little pick me up to kind of get through, is stop living in the shadow of someone else. Yeah, like let yourself shine, cheer yourself on. See, honestly, I think a lot of it comes down to like just love yourself. It's so hard. Sometimes it's hard to love yourself. And I think in order to that, sometimes you have to like knock down all these walls that you are insecure about in order to get to where you want to be and feel the way you want to feel. It's going to find you. You got to be patient, but don't tear yourself down if it's not here right now. Like you're not where you want to be.
I mean, that's good advice, girlfriend. I love it. And I know you had asked your audience if there was some questions that they wanted to know from you, and I'm sure you got flooded by a ton of questions. So if there's a few that you want to answer.
What do we got?
Let's see, girlies. What do you want to know?
Oh, someone said, how do you find true friendships and then grow within that friendship?
Ooh, that's a good question.
That is one. I've had friendships that have run their course, have ended, and it's tough at first, but I think sometimes we have people come into our lives for a reason. I honestly think everything happens for a reason. Sometimes I don't like saying that, but I think it does. It does happen for a reason.
I agree.
In order for you to find maybe a different part of you that you didn't know was there. I've had friendships that have made me feel like not good enough. And when I kind of finally stood up and said, like, I do think I'm good enough, and kind of said goodbye to that, it was tough, but it made me stronger in order to go to another friendship and give my all to them, and hopefully them give them all to me as well. Like right now, I think I have some really amazing friends, especially going through an experience like there could be people that, you've been friends with your whole life could be now be using you for something. And I think that was kind of almost a fear for me. It's like going through this experience. I don't think I'm like this celebrity like people have been saying that I am. I don't know. I'm just Mykenna living my same life. I went on reality TV show. That's all. But I have been scared that there might be a friend of mine that could be using me for something. And I'm happy to say that I don't have any friends like that, and they still accept me for me, and I'm still Mykenna, their friend, and I'm grateful for them for always staying by my side. And if you do have someone that's using you for something, I think you have to like really look upon yourself and think, is it worth it for them? Are they wanting you to be my friend, or is it something else? They're not generally like supporting you like you support them. It's not worth it. It's almost like being in a relationship. You both have to be there for one another. It can't just be one person. You have to support and love and grow and, be each other's biggest cheerleaders through it all.
Definitely. Yeah. And I think it's so normal to outgrow friendships.
Yeah.
I think that that's tough, especially the older we get, the more you kind of feel like you have to stay in certain friendships or relationships because that's what you've always done. And I think a lot of women need to hear the fact that it's like, no, it's okay that some people serve the purpose in your relationship in a certain chapter of your life, and they don't necessarily need to be a part of the next chapter.
Yeah, exactly.
Good question.
Yeah, right? Really good.
Good one.
What else did they say? Ooh. What have you done to stop feeling like you need validation from a guy to feel good? I was never that girl in high school that like constantly needed a boyfriend to feel good. I think I've definitely learned a lot from my mom, even my dad, like don't settle, like find that person that, really wants to be with you and loves you for every part of who you are. But I feel like a lot of times, like I see a lot of young girls, like they always need to be in a relationship because I think maybe it comes down to they don't love themselves, so they need to find someone else to make them feel like they should love, like they can love themselves now. And I feel like the biggest advice I could ever give someone going into a relationship is you need to love who you are first.
Preach. Yes, that is so true.
Because it's not, the relationship's not going to go where you want it to be, or how, like it's, you've got to love every part of who you are before you give that love to someone else. So yeah, I feel like that's just kind of the advice I would give for that is just, I think as long as you love who you are, the relationship will be what you want it to be.
Definitely. And I think that goes for not needing validation in any relationships in your life. That can come back to friendships too. That if you love who you are and you know kind of what you're worth and know your standards, then you kind of expect everybody else to kind of level up to where that is instead of looking for approval or validation. All right, let's do one more.
Okay, let's do a good one. I want to talk about this one. Someone said, I've struggled with acne for almost a decade now, and I want to know how I can be confident in my skin. Because I definitely have been someone that has struggled with bad skin for the last 6 years. And I feel like very early on, like it kind of happened in my late teens going into my 20s. And it was kind of like the era of like Instagram, and you see all these girls and their beautiful skin. And, I had days where I wouldn't even walk outside with no makeup on. Like that was not going to happen because I just did not feel pretty. So this kind of question really hits home for me. But I think the biggest thing is when you want to be confident in your skin, and especially when it comes to acne, is you just have to, like, I feel like our society says if you don't have perfect skin, you're not pretty. You're not what society is saying. So you should feel ashamed of that. I don't think you should feel ashamed of it. It's okay to have acne. That does not take away from your beauty. And so I say, like, if I could look back at myself like 5 years ago when I cried in my room and didn't leave my house for a week, I'm almost like mad at myself for doing that, because I was like almost like stopped living for a second because I was too worried what people were going to say when they saw me. Is that you just cannot care. It's sometimes it's tough to look in the mirror. No, that does not take away from how beautiful you are. Just own it. Walk outside. Be confident, girl. And just, like, don't let any negativity get in your way.
Wow. You're right, girl. And I think that society puts a standard of beauty when it comes to basically everything about a woman, that she needs to have perfect skin, be skinny, tall, all these things that are not attainable for a lot of people. And I think everybody needs to hear that. Like, if you don't fit that standard, that's okay. You don't need to fit that standard.
Yeah. Break the box, girl. You don't need to be in that box.
Exactly. Well, thank you so much for coming on today, Mykenna. I really appreciate you just being so open and amazing, and you really are a beauty inside and out.
Oh, well, thank you so much for having me. I loved finally actually getting to talk to you more than
finally. I know, right? Well, you always have a place here on the podcast if you ever want to come back, girl.
I would love to. This was so much fun.
So there you have it. I hope you got just as much out of this episode as I did. Please take a second to rate and review the podcast. And remember, you are so much more than whatever label's been placed upon you. We'll see you next week.